Alrighty, folks, I got to tell you, I am loving this idea that Millennial Mike brought where we should talk to new investors, folks that are in the beginning of their journey. We have another such victim. Matt, how you doing?
Doing good, doing good. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you very much for saying yes to this, for volunteering. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, where you're at, what you're doing in this world, and we'll tell your story.
Yeah, of course. Well, hey, first off, thank you so much for the opportunity to come on and share. Both my wife and I were in this real estate journey together. At the same time, we're still holding down our current active duty Coast Guard job. So it's good to kind of see the multitude of options and tools that real estate can provide. So that's just kind of what we've done. And so to kind of take it back, started in COVID, 2020, started learning about real estate. I was down in Pensacola, Florida, and my wife was in Houston, Texas. So because of the military, sometimes your locations can be split apart, even though you guys are married. So that's kind of the sacrifice that we had to make. That's all right. So we made the most of it. Um, and learned about real estate. I was living, like I said, alone. So ended up thinking, all right, well, let me learn how to run the numbers first. So started listening to your channel, actually the one rental at a time, some bigger pocket stuff, active duty passive income, just to kind of absorb all this content. And sure enough, learned about running the numbers, ended up getting the first deal, which was a VA loan, 0% down house hack. So a good classic, I
Single
would say,
family home, duplex. What are
yeah.
we buying?
Yeah,
House.
so it was a 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,800 square feet, just in the suburb of Pensacola. So
Nice.
for those are that kind of just familiar, there's two Navy bases. So we kind of split the distance, equidistant to that. So figured a good pool of transient military personnel as well as a growing population just off the interstate there. So location, couldn't complain. Got some good feedback on that. But yeah, so just house hacked it. Got two roommates. Let's see. I know your channel is big into the numbers, so we'll just go ahead
Sure.
and dive in. So purchase price was 226,000 back in the fall of 2020.
Okay.
It was bought from one of the bigger home builders, a D.R. Horton. So
Okay.
they had this incentive for 0% down, and it was a dollar closing addendum. So
Mm,
I ended up walking away at the closing table with just $24. That's all I spent in my pocket. It was pretty sweet. Uh,
nice. All right.
and so principal interest, taxes, insurance right now are about 1,300.
Okay.
Um, and I had two roommates, and then each bedroom was 650. So just doing quick math, 650 times two, 13. And sure enough, that light bulb moment said, wow, this is actually a
So,
possibility.
so you were living for like $50 a month.
Yeah, yeah, and it was like, of course, you definitely want to set aside some of that
Oh,
cash reserves, but yeah, I mean that was for us, we were like, holy crap, like this is real, you know? Like this can happen. You hear about it, and it's like,
yeah.
oh, like, dude, no way in my market. And so it just
Yeah.
took getting creative and kind of understanding the situation that I was in, right? Going through a
Yeah.
flight training where you had transient military students and personnel, and they don't have that much furniture, and hey, bedroom, perfect, come
Yeah.
on in. Like,
Yeah.
you're only there for 18 months or so, give or take. So it worked
So
out.
how many roommates have you had in this property? Because you bought it, roughly 3 years ago.
Yeah, so let's see, probably turned out about 5 or 6 roommates thus far. So they each had about 18 to 24 month
Yeah.
time frame to train. So the good lesson learned from there is I realized I do not want to be in property management. So
Yeah.
you know
No,
it
that's not
it
none of that for me.
yeah, it takes trying different things to realize, hey, maybe I don't like this aspect of it, but that's,
Sure.
that's the beauty of real estate. You can kind of pick and choose what your strengths are. And so
Okay.
for me, and well, Jess and I, we realized, hey, let's leave it to the professionals when it comes to to
There
property.
you go. All
Um,
right.
so yeah, so that was that first VA house hack, and that currently is under property management, and that rents for 2150. So that is like just a slam like grand slam deal for
Nice.
us.
So what I'm hearing you say is at some point you left that third bedroom, is what I'm hearing
Yes.
you say. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. So We left that third bedroom, and that was to get because with the VA loan, you have what are called these entitlements. And so,
Mhm.
because I did not use all of my VA loan entitlements in that first property,
Okay.
I still had some remaining.
Okay.
So, what I did was in 2022,
Mm.
I used those remaining VA loan entitlements, and I got approved with the lender to say, "Hey, I want to upgrade my space." So kind of like
Mm.
that move up buyer. So
Yeah.
this next property was a 5 bedroom, 3 bath, 2,600 square feet. So this was,
Mm.
um, and then I got roommates to live in there as well while I finished my flight training. So that was in the fall of 2020, and so
Okay.
we used the strategy and just kind of rinse and repeat, made sure everything was good from the lender side. The VA signed off, and so
Okay.
um, that
Still
was
Florida? Still that roughly the same area?
yeah, exactly. So kind of, and you got to know the area a little bit better.
Yeah.
So it is kind of starting in your own backyard, if you will.
Right.
Um, so that was in the suburb of Pensacola. It's called Pace,
All
Florida.
right. So I'm curious about the first unit. Is that just rented 2,100 to one family, or does it now have three roommates?
So the transition to use property management and do long-term rentals is just more sustainable. The
Yeah.
thing with rent by the room is that vacancy, that
Yeah.
transience, it's a lot to manage and to line
Mhm.
up those dates, it's virtually like, you're just like shooting darts at that point, right? So
Right.
to
Okay.
make the process a little easier for us to just take a step back from that management side,
Mm.
we were able to kind of get in contact with property management, whom we've personally known, done
Yeah.
transactions with, and they're phenomenal. Janet Keller,
Okay.
shout out if I can.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Yeah,
But
you
yeah,
mention them all.
they're phenomenal there at Flightline Realty and Property Management. So we're really fortunate for them to be managing now both properties since
Okay.
I've left Florida.
Oh, so okay. So you had the first one, 2,100. So what is the 5.3 now? Is that again just rented out to one family, or is that what's going on
So
there?
so basically that has 3 flight students in it right now, and then we're
Okay.
going to transition to a not a single family,
Straight
just a
up.
term.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
just that transientness, and that principal interest, tax, and insurance on that is right around 1850.
Okay.
So that one rents for 2,300, split amongst the three. The master is a little bit more expensive, just a
Yeah.
little more privacy, just some of those like caveats and such, but.
So
Um,
why so I'm just curious, a lot of people that do 5.3s, I know Spencer Cornelia loves 5.3s. Why don't you rent all 5 rooms? Or did you rent all 5 rooms and then 2 have gone vacant and you're just okay with that?
So that was when I lived there, I only had 2 rooms that were rented. So I had my
Okay.
kind of a small room with a
Yeah.
private bath. So it was 3. And then when I moved out of there
Mhm.
to basically I got orders to New Orleans. So that
Okay.
was kind of like I was able to join up with my wife in New Orleans. So that's
Oh, there we go.
we'll get to that.
That
We'll get
doesn't
to that
suck.
part. Yeah, we'll get to that part. Um, but yeah, it was sort of I solicited in like kind of these Facebook groups trying to get people to see if it was feasible, and it would have been tight. So I think it was more so my personal sacrifice, willing to say, hey, I'm willing to just kind of not fill that vacancy while I'm
Mhm.
living there. But then when I move on, like that's why I want to rent it the full
Yeah,
property. That way it's
I
just
got you.
it was sort of like a personal preference thing. And that's kind of the pros and cons, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's
It's
an
how
individual
when
choice.
yeah, when you
Yeah.
know the landlord, you might be able to swing some of
Yeah.
that. I don't know if that's good or bad.
When you know the landlord, that's
Yeah.
funny. All right, so if you're doing this in Florida, what's the wife doing in Houston, on this
Yes.
journey?
So this is the part where she was able to see kind of like this was actually a reality, right? And
Right.
so it got in about 2021, she was scheduled to transfer from Houston, and we were looking at locations.
Okay.
So for us, just job wise, she's in the maritime prevention
Mhm,
field.
mhm,
New Orleans and Mobile, Alabama were sort of two of our top choices, right?
mhm.
Long story short, we ended up choosing New Orleans, Louisiana, and so that's where I also got stationed and co-located.
Got
And
it.
during that time, she was in Houston. Obviously we were sharing the content, and we were just kind of, understanding, hey, this is a reality. Let's see if we can't do it in New Orleans. And so sure enough, This was in May of 2021. So I would say there was still that interest rates were very low. There was still that sort of frenzy, but with multifamilies, I'm sure as you know, is the competition is just a little bit smaller because people are like, oh, I want my privacy, I want a beautiful
Hmm.
backyard, I want
Oh
the right
yeah.
color door. We're like, let's run the numbers. Let's see if
We don't care.
multifamily.
We want numbers, baby, just numbers.
Yeah, so we'll see if this multifamily, analysis works out. And sure enough, we end up getting a triplex here in New Orleans. So
Okay.
she was able to move in, use the VA loan again,
Right,
and we
because you
did.
both serve, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
so she did the VA loan, used her entitlements. She
Hmm.
was able to qualify on her own.
Nice.
And so she lived in one unit and then rented out the top unit. And then in the
Okay.
bottom, we actually were able to um, do a new strategy and kind of did an Airbnb here in New Orleans, even though
Oh,
the laws are very dynamic and changing, but we're still able to run the Airbnb within the confines of the zoning. So
okay.
that has been quite an experience and learning experience, of course. So.
Right. So when you went to the Airbnb route, you had to furnish your unit, which would be very different, probably than the house hack.
Exactly. So we were fortunate enough that the seller was already operating Airbnb in the bottom.
Ah,
So
just leave it
we kind
furnished,
of
so to speak.
sweetened the deal a little bit. So we added $5,000 on top of our final offer to say, hey, don't worry about having to move all that furniture, and they were like, sure, sweet. So they left it all down there, and so it was just like a transition in terms of like changed out the different
Yeah.
linen, some just like a
Yeah.
touch here and there, but we're very fortunate that the time to get that up and coming or up and operating, we were able to kind of cut that a little bit
Oh, that's
because
awesome.
having it fully furnished.
So how long have you been operating it, or she's been
So
operating
the
it?
fall of 2021, so we just hit
Oh,
over
wow, a
two
couple years.
years. Yeah. And so
Okay.
that has been quite an experience. But sure enough, when we were running the numbers, like it's a 4 bedroom, 2 bath. So it's perfect for
Wow.
large groups, family events. We're right near Tulane University. So it's a little bit away from the maybe that party scene of Bourbon. So we're able to kind of
Okay.
capture a little bit, maybe more families looking to explore the area, group travelers,
And
people.
again, your wife, now you live there. So if somebody were to throw a party, you would know about it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Nice.
so now we both live in this upstairs unit. So we were able to kind of consolidate our lives. And that was this past summer when I moved here. So I know there's a lot of moving parts, but that's just kind of what you do in the military. You just kind of roll with
Yeah,
it
that's
and
great. Well,
it's
I
all
think that's
good.
one of the things that I've seen a lot of military folks do. They get in for their 20, but they try to buy a place everywhere they're every duty station.
Sure.
And that works out really well for lots of them. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And I think to that point is um it's all about that team that you're able to develop in that local area, right? And some areas are a little bit more conducive to rental properties than others, but I think we've been very fortunate enough to at least have those mentors and meet those rock star agents that we can lend over, and they do the property management, and so it's been easy
So,
for us, at least in Florida, that is.
and your wife's name's Jessica, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
what are you and Jessica doing next? Where does this go? What's the next thing you guys are looking at?
Yeah, so the next thing for us is, we're kind of in this season of life where we've really ramped up these kind of our own personal real estate portfolio the past 3 years.
Sure.
Uh, and I feel like with the way that our, potential families looking to maybe grow here, we'd like to expand the family. So this 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 900 square feet might be a little tight.
I'd be a little tight, yeah.
So I feel like for us, the next step would be to find some of these local or just in our area here, some distressed properties, do a
Okay.
live-in renovation flip, and just to either convert.
Oh, I like that.
Big thing around here is converting shotgun doubles into single families. That might be well outside of our wheelhouse, but I think finding a kind of a distressed property that could use some TLC,
Mhm.
it would be a project for us to document, to learn and share, and make a few mistakes here and there. But
Yeah, yeah.
for
Tell
us,
tell people what a shotgun double is. That's a term that probably not a lot of people have heard.
okay, so yeah, so shotgun double. So the history of New Orleans has basically two side by sides, almost identical units. And back in the day, they used to have the kitchens in the back of those units itself. So as you're kind of walking through, you might even be able to see like down all the hallway. You got the different bedrooms. You're going through a living room to a bedroom to a kitchen, etc. So, that style it's got his historic kind of charm as well. But that's not to say that there's potential possibilities as well for that to like change, and so we'll kind of see how the numbers work and trying to evaluate that as well.
Yeah, live-in flips are an amazing thing. I think I've told this story before. One of the cruises we were on probably a decade ago, one of the folks we started to interact with was a couple that's all they did,
Really?
literally. Now, this was California, so,
Okay.
appreciation and all of that. But all they had done the last 20 years is buy a fixer-upper in an expensive part of Southern California, live in it for 2 years, and then sell it, make a bunch of money, and then do it again. And now they're always living around dust and debris and all of that because live-in
Yeah,
flips aren't easy. But
sure.
there's not enough people that realize the tax code, right? You live in a home, it's your primary residence for 2 years. You can sell it up as a married couple up to 500 grand tax free.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I think to your point is um exploring that strategy just to add to our tool belt here would be something that I think we're worth pursuing for us, and it just sort of fits in this local area. So it'll be a TBD on that project, but it's something we'll be keeping
Yeah.
our eyes on and certainly learning
Yeah.
throughout that process as well.
Well, what other kind of advice would you have for someone getting started? Maybe someone in the military, maybe someone not. Is house hacking the right way to go? What's some kind of advice you have for folks?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think for us, I think you really have to like ask yourself, what sacrifices are you willing to make? Because it is a sacrifice to be
Yeah.
sharing these living spaces with, strangers really that become close friends and roommates, but it might not
Matt,
become
are you telling me
friends.
I have to sacrifice to get rich? That
You know,
sucks.
and not many people want to hear that, but that's
No,
that's
it's
the
the
truth. That's
reality,
the
baby.
reality. Yeah, yeah. So, you got to see what you're willing to sacrifice. So, in that example, like I was willing to share these common spaces, but for my wife, it's like, well, multifamilies work because you get your own privacy, but you're also kind of in
Yeah,
that apartment style. Um, so that was kind of a sacrifice that we were willing to accept. Like, hey,
sure.
we'll work with a multifamily, but at least I don't want to be sharing kitchen utensils with the
Yeah,
neighbors. So I would say
makes fair sense.
definitely identify kind of where you're at in life as well, right? If you got family and kids, maybe that multifamily house hack is not realistic, right?
Right.
So there's so many other strategies I feel out there. You just have to pick one, try it, but there's calculated risks, sure, in these decisions, but I think that's the beauty of real estate is there's not one shoe fits all.
Mhm.
And so, you kind of just almost like reflect in terms of, where I'm at in my life, what season of life am I in, what sacrifices am I willing to make? And then,
Mhm.
I would say the biggest one is, am I financially ready? And do I have that financial foundation to take on said project or said risk? So kind of just off the top, those three come to
Yeah.
mind. And I
I'm
know
curious. So
you're
you've done 3 deals to this point, right? Are you
correct.
up half a million bucks at least in equity when you add them all together?
We are, I would say, and what's funny, we actually use a Excel spreadsheet, so we're not very
Shocking.
fancy people, not very fancy people.
That's what I
Let's
have
see.
too.
Equity, we will say we are at 375K.
And
So
again,
I would
all of
say
that
that's,
is with 0 down
yeah, that's
or
well, I
24
guess
bucks. I'm
I
sorry,
would I
24
would
bucks.
yeah, I would caveat some of those with the New Orleans property, it was 0% down, but you got the like there's prorated taxes and some things
Yeah.
you kind of come to closing with and end up being like 15K out of pocket. But I think if you're you still got a W-2 job, I think you'll be able to be willing to set aside some money.
Mhm.
And then that cash pile, that war chest kind of grows a little bit. And sure enough, you can be in that position to get that owner occupied house hack. Like that's
Yeah.
the reality of
Well,
it.
you're wearing a shirt that says the Mojo Mindset. Tell us what
Yeah.
that is.
That's right. So for both my wife and I, so Matt O'Donnell and Jessica O'Donnell, so kind of little play right there.
There you
Um,
go.
but for us, I feel like what it really embodies is just kind of getting your spouse on the same page, right? Like I
Yes.
think for us,
Oh, so important.
this real estate journey, like it could be real estate, it could be open up like a bubble tea shop, right? Like it doesn't matter what it is. I think just the idea of like, hey, we're gonna go on this journey together.
Mhm.
We're gonna learn, we're gonna grow at different rates, and that's okay. But I think as long as you are, on that same page with your life partner, your ride or die,
Mhm.
that's kind of the gist, the whole mantra of it. So I don't know what form this takes in 5 to 10 years, but it's just a personal brand that why wouldn't we be willing to rock it
Yeah.
and turn it into something hopefully big in the future.
No, I like it. And I just gotta I have to second you know, your ride or die. You guys have to be on the same page, you have to be communicating. Like, when you were living in Florida and she was in Houston, how often did you talk finance, money, that stuff?
That's a good question. It almost had to be sort of, on a weekly basis
Yeah.
because it was like, "Does it make sense for me to buy these $900 tickets to go fly out and see you?" And it's like, like, we'll just wait till the holidays or like, like,
Yeah.
we'll just drive over." And so, like, yeah, like, I mean, granted, we
Yeah.
were we were both fortunate to be working at the time, but still, that discussion is good to and is healthy to bring up, right? Like, what do you value? What is important to you? And like spending time together was important. So there's going to be a cost to that because we're
Mhm.
living apart. And
Yeah, of
so
course.
um, but I think like part of what we do is, monthly net worth checks and just like try to
Right.
do books on Sundays and just like incorporate these small behavioral habits, if you will. And, together it helps us talk about money. We're understanding profit and loss statements, income balance sheets, so on and so forth. And we get to do it together. And we've made plenty of mistakes and we'll probably make some more along the way. And that's just how it goes.
You know, it's really funny. You were living states apart and talking about money more than couples that live together talk about money.
Is that right?
It's shocking how few people talk about money,
Sure.
and this is a husband and wife, a family, supposed to be like one unit. It's okay, folks. You could talk about money. You could talk about plans. In fact, I recommend it. Right?
Yeah.
Let's just money is not a foreign language. You can both talk about it. And if you don't know, you can learn together. I think that's such a good idea.
Yeah,
Matt,
definitely.
if you want to wrap it up, where can people find you, follow you, see what you guys are doing? Sounds like you're documenting your story. What do you got?
Yeah, so, we've got a very small, YouTube channel. We're on Instagram, just kinda at the Mojo Mindset, and, I'm sure you'll see us on comments, on Mr. Zuber's channel, the Daily Financial News. That's our way of staying in tune with the market while still, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, still doing that W-2, full-time job, but, always save time for some good news on the market,
The
right? It's
the
always changing.
daily financial news, baby. I'm glad you listened to that. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for being willing to have a conversation about what you're doing. A lot of people appreciate new investors coming along. Any closing thoughts as we kind of close this down?
Um, Man, I think as long as you are and your partner just get on the same page, I think that speaks volumes. And it's not like we've always been on the same page just from day one, right? It's like
Yeah,
a just constant change, but it's well worth it. So thank you so much for the opportunity, Mr. Zuber, to come on here.
absolutely. All right, Matt. Take care. Say hi to Jessica for me. Have a
For
great
sure.
weekend. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye bye.